You were never meant to stay buried. Something brought you here today. Not the algorithm, not chance. Something deeper. Something that moves before logic catches up. And if you're watching this right now, in this exact moment of your life, this message was placed in front of you on purpose. Because you've been through something. Something that broke you open. Something that made people around you whisper. Something that made even you question whether you would come back from it. They watched you fall. They calculated your silence. They measured your absence. They told themselves, and maybe they even told you, that you were finished. That the version of you they once feared, once envied, once needed, was gone. And for a while, you almost believed them. You went quiet. You went small. You disappeared into the weight of what happened. The loss, the betrayal, the failure, the diagnosis, the collapse. Whatever it was that drove you underground, it felt final. But here's what they never understood about you. The ones who were truly chosen, they don't die in the dark. They transform there. Easter is not just a date on a calendar. It is a cosmic pattern, a divine blueprint written into the architecture of existence itself. And it was written for people exactly like you. Not the polished, not the perfect, not the ones who never fell. The ones who fell the hardest. The ones who stayed in the tomb the longest. The ones who came back changed. That's you. And before this video ends, you will never see your story the same way again. If this message found you at exactly the right time, drop "Risen" in the comments right now. Part 1. The tomb was not your ending. It was your incubation. Let's go back to Friday. Not this Friday, the Friday. The one written into the deepest memory of human consciousness. The day when everything that was supposed to save the world appeared to be destroyed by it. They took him down from the cross. They wrapped him in cloth. They rolled a stone in front of the entrance. The soldiers stood guard. The followers scattered. The ones who loved him most sat outside and wept because it looked like it was over. It looked finished. And that image, that specific image of the stone-sealed tomb is not ancient history. It is a mirror. It is your mirror. Because you know what a sealed tomb feels like. You've lived inside one. Maybe it was the end of a relationship that was supposed to be permanent. Maybe it was a career that collapsed when you had finally started to believe in it. Maybe it was a dream you buried with your own hands because you couldn't watch it die slowly anymore. You sealed it yourself. You said goodbye. You stopped hoping. And from the outside, everyone agreed. It was over. You were done. But the tomb was never the ending. This is what Easter reveals that no motivational speech ever can. The tomb is not punishment. The tomb is not abandonment. The tomb is the necessary darkness before the impossible dawn. Seeds don't sprout in sunlight. They split open underground, in silence, in pressure, in the place where no one is watching. You were splitting open, not breaking down, breaking through. Every sleepless night was a contraction. Every moment you cried without knowing why was a labor pain. Every time you felt like nothing was moving, something was moving. Something ancient, something that answers to a higher timetable than yours. The caterpillar doesn't know it will have wings. Inside the cocoon, it dissolves completely. It becomes liquid, unrecognizable. It is not becoming a butterfly. It is becoming nothing. And then it becomes everything it was always meant to be. You were in that process. You still might be in it right now. And the most dangerous thing you could do is leave the tomb too early, because what's being built inside you right now requires the full 3 days.
Part 2. Why the chosen ones always go through the most. Have you ever noticed a pattern? The people who change the world always get broken first. Every single time, without exception. Joseph thrown into a pit by his own brothers. Moses exiled into the desert for 40 years. David hiding in caves, hunted like an animal before he became king. Every prophet, every leader, every person whose name echoed across centuries. They all went through the tomb. This is not coincidence. This is curriculum. You were not chosen despite what you've suffered, you were chosen through it. The suffering wasn't a detour from your destiny, it was the doorway into it. And the people who tried to destroy you, they didn't know they were doing you a favor. The betrayal that shattered your trust forced you to find a foundation inside yourself you didn't know existed. The failure that humiliated you publicly destroyed the version of you that was too fragile to carry what was coming next. The loss that left you hollow created space for something that could never have fit inside the crowded life you had before. You had to be emptied to be filled. This is the pattern of the chosen. Not comfort, not easy ascent, not a clear path with no obstacles. The chosen path looks like the wrong path. It looks like suffering. It looks like delay. It looks like God forgot you. He didn't forget you. He's been training you. Because what's coming next in your life cannot be carried by the person you were before the tomb. That person was too small, too fearful, too dependent on external validation, too easily broken by what people thought. The person emerging from your tomb right now, they cannot be stopped. Not by opinion, not by betrayal, not by failure, not even by death, because they've already been through the version of death that breaks ordinary people, and they came out the other side still standing, still breathing, still here, still watching this video at exactly this moment, because something in you refuses to stay finished. That refusal is not stubbornness. That refusal is divine. Part 3. The Sunday morning no one saw coming. Think about who found the empty tomb first. Not the powerful, not the priests, not the Roman soldiers standing guard, not the disciples who had been closest to him. A woman, weeping, coming to perform a final act of love for someone she thought was gone forever. She wasn't coming expecting resurrection. She was coming to tend to what she believed was a permanent ending. And the angel said to her, "Why do you look for the living among the dead?" That question was written for you. Why are you still looking for your life in the places where things ended? Why are you still defining yourself by the chapter that closed? Why are you measuring your future by the evidence of your past? You are not what failed. You are not what was taken. You are not the version of yourself that went into the ground. Sunday morning changes everything. And the thing about Sunday morning, nobody predicted it. Nobody scheduled it. Nobody organized a celebration. Nobody printed the invitations. There was no announcement, no warning, no press release. The stone was simply gone. The tomb was simply empty. And that is exactly how your resurrection will arrive. Not with fanfare, not when you're ready, not when the circumstances align or the timing feels right. One ordinary morning you will wake up and something will be different. Something will have shifted in the night. The weight you've been carrying will feel lighter. The future that felt sealed shut will suddenly feel open. And you will realize the stone has been moved. Not by you, not by your effort, not by your discipline or your willpower or your perfectly constructed morning routine, by something larger, something that decided your story wasn't finished yet, and that something has been working the whole time you were sleeping. Trust the silence, trust the waiting, trust the 3 days. Your Sunday is already scheduled. You just don't know which morning it is yet.
Let's make this real. Because resurrection doesn't always look like what you imagine. It doesn't always arrive with a thunderclap in a choir. Sometimes it looks quiet. Sometimes it looks ordinary. Sometimes it looks like a small decision that changes everything. Resurrection looks like you opening your laptop again after months of believing you had nothing worth saying. Resurrection looks like you making the phone call you've been afraid to make, the one that requires you to be vulnerable again after being hurt. Resurrection looks like you believing, truly believing in your body, not just your mind, that you deserve another chance. Not because you've proven yourself, not because you've fixed everything, not because enough time has passed or enough boxes have been checked, but because Easter says the stone doesn't wait for you to be ready. The stone moves when it moves, and the person who walks out of that tomb is always different from the person who went in, They carry marks. They carry stories. They carry a weight in their eyes that can only come from having been through the thing that should have ended them. And those marks are not shame. Those marks are authority. When you've been through what you've been through and you show up anyway, people feel that. They cannot explain why they trust you. They cannot explain why your presence steadies something in them. They cannot explain why your story makes them believe their own story might not be over. But you know why. Because you came back. You didn't just survive. You were transformed. And the world needs what comes out of that tomb. Not the version of you that never suffered. That version had nothing to give. The world needs the version of you forged in the 3 days of darkness. The version that knows what resurrection costs. The version that knows what it means to be chosen. Because chosen doesn't mean easy. Chosen means entrusted. Chosen means you were given the kind of story that could only be carried by someone built for it. And they built you for it. All of it. Every single day of the tomb. So let me ask you something. What if the thing you've been calling your ending is actually your Easter? What if the silence you've been drowning in is not abandonment, but preparation? What if the people who wrote you off gave you the greatest gift? What if being left alone in the dark was the only way to become someone who no longer needs anyone else's light? You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not finished. You are in the tomb, and the tomb has a timeline, and that timeline is not yours to control. Your only job right now, the only thing required of you in this moment, is to believe that Sunday exists, even when it's Friday, even when it's Saturday and the silence is unbearable, even when everyone has gone home and the stone looks permanent. Sunday exists. Your Sunday exists, and when that stone moves, nothing about your life will look the same. The failure will look like foundation. The betrayal will look like protection. The loss will look like redirection. Every dark chapter will rearrange itself into the exact preparation you needed for what comes next. They thought you were finished. Easter says no, and Easter has never been wrong. If this message reached you today, it was not by accident. Share this with someone who needs to hear that their tomb is not their ending. Leave risen below if you felt something shift in you today. Your resurrection is already in motion. Trust the 3 days.